welcome back to Bebop Review. My name's Andy Shaw. Today we're going to be talking about the greatest riff in bebop. Wow, you're thinking. If you type in the message, the greatest riff, in YouTube, you will get thousands, basically thousands and thousands of results. There's loads of people putting stuff on called the one that you must know and all this kind of stuff. So why am I putting this on? This is just another one. Here we go again, the greatest riff in bebop. Play this and you'll be able to play bebop, which you've probably already found out that's just a load of rubbish, But in a way, in this instance, it's actually true. If you do not play this riff, or to be more accurate, which I call building block, you will not be playing bebop, authentic bebop, as in Charlie Parker, Bud Powell, Clifford Brown, Dizzy Gillespie, Fats Navarro, and all the early bebop players, right? Because every one of them used this building block, right, in their solos. It's so important. And as we go on through history, right, from the bebop era into the cool school, right, which was like the white musicians, kind of like Paul Desmond, Art Pepper, all these West Coast player, Lee Konitz, Jerry Mulligan, that kind of cool style. We see less of this pattern, this building block. And as we go into the hard bop era, it's still there, but less, not as aggressively played. If you listen to Sonny Rollins and John Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley, the three great sax players of the hard bop era, this riff is still there, but it's much less evident than it was in the bebop era. That is the period of, from like 1945 to, till whatever, till 53, 54, until the hard bop era coming. I think it come in about 55, didn't hard bop? So that period, this is so important. If you don't master this line, you will really not be playing authentic bebop, right? So you're all thinking, what is it? I bet a lot of you are thinking it's M1. M1, right, which is in Thomas Owen's book, right, with his catalogue of mortars, is the main riff. It's the riff that's played more often, or the building block that's played more often in Charlie Parker's music than anything else. M1 is a really important line, actually, because M1 is an arpeggiated thing. It varies, but it's an arpeggiated thing that brings voice leading back up. So you play an arpeggio, take the voice leading up, and then descend back down again. And that is very evident in Charlie Parker's music. But it's not the greatest line. The greatest line, right, the greatest building block, right, is not M1. It's not M2. It's not M3. It's not M4. The greatest line is M5. M5, right? M5 belongs to a family, right, of building blocks. If this is what we're going to call them from now on, building blocks, that dates right back to Romantic era music in the classical world. But in the classical world, it was played different to it is in the bebop. It's really important to understand this, that classical music, that is the Romantic era, which we are actually comparing bebop to, because Romantic era brought in a lot of elaboration, as did bebop, elaboration into the line, right? But the lines are played different in bebop, right? It's going to be, again, this is going to be a very difficult one for me to explain. So we're going to have to start at the beginning, so I apologise to you, it's obvious. The main difference between the concert music and jazz music, right, is that the accents are played differently in jazz to concert music. And the reason is that concert music, that is like Baroque, classical, Romantic era music, and jazz music, that is, New Orleans swing, bebop, cool, hard bop or whatever. The main difference is that all jazz music swings, or should swing, right, and concert music doesn't. It's usually straight beats. The accents in concert music in 4/4 times would usually be on beats 1 and 3, whereas in jazz the accents would be on beats 2 and 4, right? So that means that when you play these patterns that originated from the Romantic era, you've got to play them in a jazz way. So changing tones, right, which would in concert music would start on a weak beat and resolve to a strong beat, that is something like beat 1 and 3, in jazz would start on a strong beat and resolve to beats 2 and 4, kind of. Because I say kind of because Charlie Parker resolves wherever he wants, basically. I mean, in general, you do find that the changing tones do resolve on either beats 2, 3 or 4, but occasionally they do resolve on beats 1, usually at the end of a phrase, at the end of a 2-5 pattern. You might get 5 going to 1, and Parker makes the changing tone resolve to the 1 chord somehow. And it's, I can't really describe how important this is to actually understand, because so many people on YouTube, I believe, have got Charlie Parker completely wrong. In fact, everybody has got him completely wrong, because they talk about Parker playing through 2-5-1 patterns, and to me they don't really seem to understand what's happening. But saying that, they could be right and I could be wrong, but I actually don't agree with what they're saying, and I will be explaining it much better in the Levin-Wilson controversy when we get to that. We're not getting at that now, we're just talking about changing tones at the moment. But I want you to emphasise that this thing about how you play the changing tones, how they should be played to swing, and if you're not going to play them to swing, really understand what you're doing, is really important. All these people on YouTube are putting these videos on. The one pattern you must know in bebop, and learn this pattern and you'll be playing bebop. But they don't actually explain jazz itself and how these lines fit. And hopefully in this video I will give you an idea. But it's still up to you to study and actually put the work in yourself. All I can do is just guide you. Okay, so instead of me going now, we'll actually start looking at it on the computer. And hopefully you can follow what I'm saying. Alright, so I'll see you later. Okay, so I'm looking at this Cannonball Adderley solo, and I just want to have a look at the changing tones in it. So we'll just have a quick look for any changing tones. I'm looking at first 12-13 bars. And as you can see, we've got like a converging figure here. This note here is kind of like a scape tone, which is jumping away and then moving up to this G in the opposite direction. It's kind of like a changing tone because that's actually between these two, although it's weak as far as changing tones are concerned. That would be considered quite weak, you know, to actually moving towards this tone. But I've actually put it in anyway, just to show you that Cannonball Adderley just changed direction. And then there's others here, if you see, look, that's in between, but I'm not counting that because that note's not in key. It's not in the key, and it's actually part of a line, you know. You could say that's a changing tone if you wanted to, but I'm only counting notes that are actually in key. Yeah? We've got another one here. This is definite changing tone. This is actually an enclosure, Dave Baker's enclosure, or M5. That's the tone we're looking for, this one here, this C, and we're half a tone above it, which is D flat, and half a tone below there, I see. So that's definitely M5. And then here we've got a typical Charlie Parker line. This is M5B. It's actually used by most at bebop as this. You've got half a tone above, half a tone below, but you're moving up chromatic by 2 notes. That's called a double approach note, or M5B, which is obviously the most common one. And that's really it. There's only really 3 that I would accept because they're surrounding notes that are in key. Right, so let's have a look at Charlie Parker now. Okay, so now I'm looking at a Charlie Parker solo. This is an anthropology. The reason why I'm looking at this is because its rhythm change is the same as the one we just looked at, Cannonball Adderley, and the speed is just about the same, 300 beats a minute. So looking for the changing tones. First 12 bars or so. And as you can see, there's a lot more there. There's five changing tones that are diatonic. One here, look, one here. They're all sounding chord notes. One there, one there, one there. And here we've got a chromatic one. This in purple is M5B, same as on the cannonball adder we've just seen. Half a tone above, half a tone below, and then you're moving up chromatically. We can see that in just 12 bars you've got actually more in the Charlie Parker than the Cannonball Adderley. Just put them side by side so you can have a look at them. Okay, looking at them side by side, you can see the difference. That there's more in Charlie Parker, and basically this is what it's like all the time. When you compare the bebop era to any of the other eras that follow, the cool era and the hard bop, you find out that it's basically double the changing tones, probably even more than that, double, triple, in the bebop era than they were in the hard bop era and the cool era. I'm not going to keep on about this. I just wanted to show you that as a quick example. At the end of this video, I'm going to put me just looking at solos for 10 minutes and actually like reinforcing this, but I don't want to reinforce it now. Anybody who don't believe what I'm saying about there's more M5s, more changing tones in the bebop era than the other eras that follow, just watch the last 10 minutes where I actually go through different players and show you that the bebop players certainly have more changing tones than the preceding eras. Okay, and you can have a look yourself if you don't believe me, just check it out. Right, so that's looking at that. So the next thing to do is to actually look and try to explain to you exactly what I'm talking about here when I talk about a changing tone and M5 and all these things. I'll just explain all the changing tones for you and what I'm actually looking for in the music. Okay, so here's a kind of definition on changing tones. Changing tones are a pair of notes, or more than a pair if ornamental, that surround a third note that is the goal of the changing tones. David Baker's Enclosure and Thomas Owen's M5A are examples of changing tones. The changing tones, including the goal tone, is usually called a neighbour group or surround tones, depending on what type of book you read. Be familiar with all these names. Simply put, this group of tones consists of a chord tone's lower and upper neighbours that, when combined, form a leap preceding the resolution to a chord tone. Classically speaking, this pair of embellishment tones leaves a chord tone by step in either direction and resolves by a step to the same chord tone. As we shall see in bebop as romantic music, there are variations on this basic classical approach. I just want to say one extra thing that I've just been reading there, and that is that when I'm talking about tones, I'm talking in American terminology. We wouldn't actually say tones in Britain, we would say notes. Tones is an intervallic relationship, as I actually said in the critical video I made on Adam Neely. So I just want to fill that in. I'm actually talking in US terminology. Okay. In 1963, a dissertation entitled Harmonic Materials and Treatment of Dissonance in the Pianoforte Music of Frédéric Chopin by Betty Jean Thomas listed the 4 basic types of changing tones. Normal changing tones, abbreviated CT, are those that depart from and resolve to the same tone. Notice how this differs from an enclosure type in that the top changing tone is a full tone above the goal chord tone. In an enclosure, or M5A, it would be a semitone. So in David Baker's enclosures, you'd get a semitone above and below the tone that you are leading to. Okay? A modified changing tone, abbreviated MCT, is one that is approached by stepwise motion from a note other than the one to which the changing tone resolves. In this example, the changing tone is approached by a leap, abbreviated MCT APP by a leap. Modified changing tone approached by a leap. It's approached from a tone other than the goal chord tone. In an ornamental changing tone, abbreviated ORNLCT, one of the notes is repeated before resolving. Note, Ornamental changing tones can be approached by notes other than the gold chord tone. Hence you can have ornamental modified changing tones and ornamental modified changing tones approached by a leap. When you see something like this, which appears to be a changing tone, but the top note is quite a long way away from the actual gold tone, this is called a converging figure. It's still kind of moving the music towards this G, but it's not as strong as a changing tone. But this kind of stuff is again what you see quite a lot of in bebop, more than the other eras, the cool era and the bebop era that followed. This kind of changing the way the music moves. So it's certainly one to look at that, and I actually include it as a kind of changing tone because it is showing you where the music is actually going. Okay. In bebop jazz, there are two main types of changing tones that are chromatic. M5, or as David Baker puts it, an enclosure. This has a half tone above and below the note that we're actually going to, right? And also M5B, which is a 4-note figure which has a half tone above and below the note we're going to, but is approached by 2 notes, as we see in this example. I would be very careful about watching these as well. Sometimes you might get 5 notes where Parker, like I showed you when I was criticising the Ed the Jazzman's video, when we were looking and we saw an M5B there, but Parker put an extra note in just here as we were running down because of the speed. So you've got to watch out for things like that. Make sure that you can identify what is an M5B and what is an M5. Okay, so I'm looking at this solo by Charlie Parker on the Jumping Blues. This was recorded, I think it's 1942, with the J McShane Band. So I just want to show you this changing tone here. Right, there's one here. See, we're going from this G, which is the note we're leaving from. Then we're going through these changing tones in and back to G, which is a non-chord tone. So he's actually going straight into M2, which is this here. It's funny how he's still playing these lines even early on in his career. He's going to M2 there, and David Baker says, make the middle chord tone, make middle tone the chord tone. So that's what he's doing. That's middle tones there. But if you notice, David Baker put it on beat 1, whereas Charlie Parker's actually playing on beat 4. Which is what I said in my criticism of David Baker. This is M51. Let me just put in another colour for you. Right, this is M51, this. What it is it's an arpeggio. Can you see? B, D, F sharp. So that would be a B minor arpeggio, that bit there. But the last note moves down by step. Now when Parker plays that particular line, when it moves down by step, he usually jumps either a perfect fifth in the opposite direction or a 6. Right, so we're going down this M. I'll write that in because you haven't seen that. M51. 51. And then he's jumping up to this E, and then this is basically keeping voice leading going. You've got this A going to this B, going to that C down there, C. And then here you've got this F sharp going to that E, going to that D, going to that C. So you kind of get you're getting voice leading converging on this C, which is a 7th of D7. But I just thought I'd show you that. I'm just going to play that bit from there right through to there on my saxophone. I just want you to listen to it, okay? Right, now I just want to show you again what Charlie Parker used to do in his later days. I'm just doing this for interest. Parker wouldn't approach this like this. He would use M1 and probably start here, miss a beat, so he'd go B, C, E, G to get to that. So it'd be more like a B, C, E, G. Yeah, it'd play a B off the beat. So it'd be B off, let me think, yeah, off the beat. So just this note here would be B. He'd play a B like that. Then he would play C here, E there, and then G, and that would be a triplet. So that would represent M1. And this note here would be a B just there, this half note. So it'd go ba-do-ba-da, and then we'd go into this A G. So it's still working exactly the same way, A G. This next bit he'd do in his later years, he wouldn't play this kind of line. He'd play that as a line running down. So he'd play D there, if I can write it in, and then a C sharp there, and that would be all eighth notes like that, if you know what I mean. So, and then he'd probably finish on that, or probably finish on anything else. So just play that as I've just written it out, corrected it there to show you how Parker might have played in his later years. Okay. Okay, so I hope you've heard that. I just want to stick that in for interest. So this is the normal changing tone, M2, M51, and then this voice lean line that drops down here. Have you noticed that Parker, this line here, when Parker does run up, and like I say, he would usually later on use M1 to move up. But have you noticed how that is a tetrachord? See, Parker's thinking in tetrachords all the time, not scale things. If you look at this line here, you see that again is a tetrachord. E, F, G, A. It's a E natural tetrachord. That. Oh no, sorry, that's F sharp. So it's E, F, E minor tetrachord. That's an E minor tetrachord, right? And then here, this is part of a bebop scale, right, to that B, and he's putting this changing tone in. You see, this is a changing tone here that's running to that B, right? You've got half step above and a full tone below, because that's a B, and then it's going D, C sharp, C, B, so that's a bebop scale, isn't it? It's running down, but it's putting this bebop scale, this changing tone in to elaborate it, and we're running down to this B. Now, I just want to talk about this when I saw this. Let me just clean that up a bit. Okay, I just want to show you this changing tone here, right? That changing tone is part of this bebop scale here. See this bebop scale? It's running down to that B. Right, so it's going D, C sharp, C, B. The chord is D7. This is D7 here. So that is the bebop note, that's C sharp. Right. Now people on YouTube are saying, oh, it makes the scale come out right. But if you look, Parker's playing it, so it's not making the scale come out right, because he's actually changing to this chord here. And what he's done is he's put a changing tone in on this bebop, descending bebop scale, right, to get to that B. You see? So D, C, I know it's just a chromatic scale, but it is, you would call that a bebop scale, because it's following the first four notes of a dominant bebop scale descending. And he's put that A in to get to that B, so that's quite clever, that. So when people are saying, oh, it makes the scale come out right, well, it doesn't actually make the scale come out right if you modify it like that, you know. So you want to be thinking about things like that when you look at Charlie Parker's playing. Let's clean that out. So I thought I'd just show you that. That's a changing tone that changes a dominant bebop scale into another chord. Right, so that's one. I'll just show it in so you can see it there. Right, moving on a bit now. Okay, so moving on. If we look at this part here, we've got a changing tone there. Can you see? And if you look at that, that's quite clever how Parker's coming down to it. He's using, see that there is B flat. That's B flat 7, isn't it? Because look, B flat D, F, A flat, B flat 7. This chord here is G7. So it's chord 4. So he's putting in, this is the 5. Oh, sorry, it's not the 5. Hold on. Just a minute. It's the sub 5/7 of 2. Right, so you've got E minor 7. If you go up tritone, you get B flat, don't you? So it's B flat 7. So that's the tritone subchord of E minor 7, which is quite correct because it's got a non-diatonic root, so that's okay. And that chord usually resolve to the chord number 5, so this is 5/7 resolving to 5, and chord 5 would be A7, so that would be dropping down from B flat 7 to A7 chromatically. And if you look, we're not going into A7, we're going to D7, but this is all resolving around that A. So we're not going to A7, but we're going to A. God, that to me, that's incredibly clever. He's used that and put this changing tone in to get to that A. It's really just really good how he's done it, you know. So I wonder if he's worked it out by fairly advanced harmony by thinking like this is sub 5/7 D goes into A, and A is the fifth of D7, and therefore that would work. I wonder if he actually thought that. Well, I don't know, but it does look really clever on paper when you're looking at it like that. Okay, so I'm not gonna. There's probably a few more. We see there's a changing tone down here. Look there. And you might see a couple more. I'm not actually looking there for any more. What I wanted to do is just show you a few, because this video will get too long if I show you and go on and on and on. But what I want to show you, if I can just rub all this lot out. Okay, so I'm looking at this solo by Charlie Parker on the closer. This is like years after the one on Jumping Blues. It's about 7 or 8 years later when Charlie Parker was at his peak. So just have a look at the changing tones here and see if we can see any pattern. Well, you see this one here is the changing tones are on a strong beat and resolving to a weak beat onto this G, which is how it should be. This is what David Mitchell says in his PhD study on bebop changing tones. This one here, though, can you see is resolving on a fairly strong beat. It's not beat 1, but it's on beat 3. So Parker's using beat 3 there, and then this one's going down. Yeah, it's definitely a changing tone, that, because you can see the voice lean. Some fantastic voice lean on this lot. Look at this. Well, I'll show you voice lean in a bit, actually. But that's definitely a changing tone. And then we're going into another changing tone here, which is sounding that B. And then we've got two M5Bs, right? So just have a look. That one's on a strong beat. This one is also on beat 3. You seem to like beat 3s. This one's resolved on beat 4, so it's coming on weak. But this one, which is the last one, basically last one of the section, and then he's just starting into new one. Is on this last one, he's doing it's on a strong beat. So with Parker, it's weak, strong, but it's very rarely on a beat 1. He's not putting changing tones on beat 1, but he does do changing tones on a beat 1 of a bar. He will put a changing tone that resolves here, but most of the time, most of the changing tones, he doesn't. Okay, so you'll probably see there's a big converging figure there. You see, there's lots of things that turn the music. See, I've missed one there. Can you see there's a changing tone there as well? Can you see just there? So there's a lot more I'm probably missing here, you know what I mean? So you've got to look out for that. But changing tones are really important. I think they're the most important line, the most important building block, because what they do is they actually move the way the direction of the music's going, and that brings out the rhythm in bebop, which is really important. So you've got to listen how Charlie Parker plays this and how it changes the rhythm of the music, which is less in the eras that followed. The Cool's music the Cool School was more softer way of playing, and the hard bop, even though it is just as virtuosic and just as fast, hard bop era concentrated more on harmony, you know, outlining different harmony, you know, like John Coltrane's Giant Steps, which actually goes through 3 key centers. Well, you don't get that in bebop, but you get these changing tones that emphasize more the rhythmic aspect more, in my opinion, anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna finish this video because it's going on too long, and it's not up to me to show you everything. I've just guided you in this. I mean, you've got to actually do some work yourself, start looking into solos and seeing all these things. And if you don't agree with me, you see something that's better than M5 and changing tones, then I'm quite happy to listen to your criticism. So I'll finish off with a review of what we've just gone through. And the last 10 minutes will just be me looking. It's an old video I did yonks back of looking into solos and seeing if I can find changing tones in different eras. Okay, right, I'll leave you to it then. I'll see you next video. Bye.
This Cannonball Adderley solo on Cherokee. It's on the record The Complete Sarah. Okay. If I just go down to look to this one phrase here, you can see the changing tone there. Can you see surrounding that A? Let's see if there's any more. So anywhere where you see different changing directions, so there's one there, look, C down to that A to that B, so they're changing tones, and that's a neighbourhood group. Can't see any more there. I see there's one there, look, B flat to that G to that A, so there's another neighbourhood group with changing tones. There you're changing tones. That is chromatic, that's M5, that's an enclosure. Yeah, there's one here, look, B, G sharp, A. So there's quite a few changing tones in this Cannonball Adderley solo on Cherokee. Can't remember, it's 1955 this, it's obviously one of his very first is it 55 or 65? 55, so it's one of his first albums, this. So when Cannonball Adderley is very much influenced by Charlie Parker. He had his own style this time, but he was influenced very much by Charlie Parker, and bebop style is changing tones, got a lot of changing tones. Let's have a look at this one. Look in this book. This is David Baker's book on Clifford Brown, and we'll look at Clifford Brown solo. I'll just get one out, show you if there's any on here. The famous Clifford Brown tune, Joy Spring. See what we got on this one, see if there's any changing tones in here. Yeah, certainly there's one here, look, can you see? A flat G to that F, so that's surrounding that note there. You've probably seen more than what I am, I'm just looking briefly over this. There's one there, see, oh no. There's one there, G, B, G to that A. That F, F sharp E F. That's a funny one. That's on a double time run, isn't it? That, and it's actually off the thing. So that run there, that run, what Clifford Brown's playing there, is actually a pattern from a wider. It's not in a double time pattern. He's playing a pattern in double time, which is worked out as quavers, and I can tell because of that note there. The note he's going to, that F, is off the beat. It's usually on beat 2, that beat, so it's a very strange one in that. So I think what that is a worked out pattern over like a 251, but he's playing double time very quick. See what I mean? Let's have a look here. There's a scale. There's another one there. Look, see an E between the F and D sharp, and that is also off the beat, which you don't usually get them off the beat. You usually get the note you're finishing on the beat. So this is all part of a worked out pattern that he's playing in double time. Here's another one there, that B flat. That's M5B there, that line. So there's quite a few. So there's quite a few in Clifford Brown's playing. Clifford Brown does play a lot of changing tones actually. So let's have a look at another player, unusual player this time, Art Pepper. Now Art Pepper, you wouldn't actually think of Art Pepper as a bebop player. He's more of he's seen as West Coast, isn't he? Although I think he's better than any West Coast players. I think he's the greatest of that type of player. So let's have a look at in Art Pepper, see if there's any changing tones in his stuff. Look at this tune here, Mambo Kayama. I've just picked it out at random. I'm expecting to find some changing tone. It might be more difficult this, I'm just going to have a quick look through on this tune. There's a changing tone there, look. See, that F to D to E. That's certainly a changing tone. Any more? And there seems to be one here. See this F down to D to that E, that's a changing tone. Can't see any more though. There's certainly not as many in Art Pepper's playing as there is in the beboppers. But there's still a few, so it's still there. I think that's the end of that tune. There's only about 2 or 3 in that one. But they still plays them. I bet if I got one in earlier in Art Pepper's career, I'd probably see more. You know, that was a later one, Mambo Kayama, when he played a more modern style. But you certainly get a few in that. So changing tones still exist there. Now let's have a look in Charlie Parker. This is Kim. See what we're finding in here. We've got another one here going to that A, right? So, and then we've got another one here going to that G. Another one there going to that G. Also going around G here. Got another one there going to that C. Another one there going to that B flat. Another one there going to that B flat. Another one there going to that F. Another one there. Another one there, that E, between that A and F. There's quite a lot in Charlie Parker's playing, quite a lot. I'm probably missing a lot as I'm going through this as well. But as you can see, I found more in the bebop stuff than what I did in the Art Pepper's stuff. So there's another one there, like B flat G A. The thing is, this changing tones is one where changing the music, the direction of the music, and it helps bring the rhythm out. Now, because Art Pepper's not an all-out bebopper, although he's a really good player, he doesn't play as many. You know, he plays a few, but he doesn't play as many as the beboppers. It's virtually, absolutely, you've got to play in the bebop stuff. You've got to know this changing tone or M5 pattern if you're using chromatics. Playing in 6. Anyway, there's quite a few, as you can see. I hope you can believe me that there's quite a few of these things. Let's have a look at one more. This is Sonny Rollins. I'll just have a look, I don't know, let's have a look at anything. Alfie's theme, I can see one straight away there, look, seeing Alfie's theme. It goes from F to D to E, so that's a change in tone. That's in the actual theme itself. See there again. Let's have a look in the solo, see something in the solo. See, there's one there. I think this is still the theme in it. Seems to be going on that one quite a bit. We've got one there as well. Same thing, BGA. Seem to be patterns, don't they? And we've got one there, GEF. So they're in double time patterns, aren't they? There's certainly some. There's a good one there. Look. B flat G A. It's virtually almost bebop that. Remember, this is from 1960. This solo, 1960. I think 66, isn't it? Alpha, the film we made. He returns a lot, doesn't it? At things. One. No, there's not one there. He does a lot of turning, but he doesn't seem to be using changing tones. Sonny Rollins. Looking through, see if I can see any more. certainly not a lot of them. But then again, this doesn't actually sound like bebop, does it, Alfie's tune? If you've seen the film Alfie with Michael Caine, listen to the music in it.